Welcome to the Beer Can Cold podcast with your hosts Will Merritt and JG Van Gran, a podcast where the suction line is always beer can cold. Take it away, boys.
Yes, we're still doing this. No, we didn't stop doing it. It was only been 2 weeks, okay? In the middle of freaking summer, it was just a little too busy to sit down and talk to each other. So you people just pipe down out there. So, Will, welcome back, buddy. Matt, welcome. It should be a pretty fun day, I think. It's been a minute. Oh, there. Well done. Well played, man. Well played. Yeah. Well played. I have a confession. I've gotten into pretty deep into the TikToks that's AI generated with Bigfoot.
It's ridiculous. It's everywhere. And they stole it from us. I'm sorry.
They did. I'm going to claim that 100%. So no, absolutely. But just as it's been 2 weeks and I am in the garage and I don't have company gear on, it's just about that time. So I think it's good. So, Matt, I'm super excited and stoked to have you on because one of my favorite things to do is to talk to other contractors. I'm actually in a group every Tuesday that meets through our coaching that we meet with contractors from all over the country, and it's just really cool to me. So can't wait to hear your story, can't wait to hear your successes and your struggles because I think they're real, and so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, first off, appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely.
I've watched a few of the previous shows, and
I'm sorry.
It's all good stuff.
Well, we had no idea you wanted to be on. You mentioned today, you're like, when am I going to get to be on? And I was like,
sure.
You even wanted to.
Yeah.
You even knew about it.
Yeah,
it's a very long exclusive list, Matt. I'm just
well, honored.
Thank you.
Honored.
Thank you.
So,
yeah. So no, I've grown up in the industry. Born and raised in Florida, and my dad owned a company in Lakeland, Florida, and kind of cut my teeth, with him high school summers and stuff like that. And then after college, I went to Florida State. I came back, and I knew I was going to work for him side by side. So I think it was 1998 that I started working for him. And it was a very small new construction department. They were very heavy in commercial and residential. Company's been around for about 90 years. And so he kind of let me take over the new construction department, or not really take it over, but just kind of learn the industry from a new construction standpoint. I think he figured that I couldn't mess it up because it wasn't that big of a department for him. So
yeah, there you go.
It was a good way for me to learn the industry. But I learned how to run a load calc, learned how to do a duct design, and the market was decent size, and so I've got a real passion for new construction, because that's kind of where I cut my teeth in this industry, residential specifically.
Right.
So I worked side by side, with him for about 8 or 9 years, and then in 2006, my wife and I at the time decided that we wanted to move up to North Carolina. It wasn't really any reason other than just kind of wanting to get out and try it on my own. And so in October of 2006, I bought Caryl Mechanicals, and here we are, almost 19 years later.
Tom and Libby Carl, right? Am I correct?
What's that?
Tom and Libby Carl.
Tom and Libby Carl were the original owners.
Yeah.
They had moved down from Syracuse, New York, and started the company about 7 or 8 years prior to me buying the company. So I was really, it was challenging, although I had, gotten a lot of advice and experience, from my dad, working side by side with him. I had never really just been out on my own and been a business owner. So, I mean, there was some many days in that first, couple years, banging my head against the wall saying, what in the world did I just do?
Yeah. Why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
And that's one thing. So I see that in our leadership team too. So I have a group of guys and girls in our leadership team that takes extreme ownership, right? And so you can see when we had a heck of a plan or a heck of an idea and it doesn't work out, and how they own that thing. So I feel you, because, we struggle with that. But my message to them is always, it's the best way to learn. Like, don't, you got to learn somewhere. And so screw up and learn from it, and just don't do it again.
100% accurate. I mean, I think that's part of the success story here at Carl is, we've been through the trial and error. We have failed,
Yes,
and learned from those failures. And so I think one of the reasons why we're so successful today is because of, going through those hard times.
So Matt, are you guys still predominantly new construction?
We are. Yeah,
Okay.
we are. We'll do close to 8,000 homes this year.
Wow.
From a new construction standpoint. We are in all the Carolinas, Eastern Tennessee, predominantly just the production work. We don't really do any custom work for custom builders, but it's all production work.
Yeah. And you obviously have some service departments to help you service the new construction needs, right?
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
So Carl itself has, a service department. I think we've got, 21, 22 service technicians that are not only running warranty calls, but running some service leads as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. And that was a big thing. So, Will, I'm sorry, I'm going to dominate this conversation today because I have so
I've
much.
been talking all day. I was on a call with an attorney
Oh,
and an accountant. My wife's selling her business. Matt.
oh, okay.
We're going through this thing right now. So I was on a 2-hour call, and I'm talking. I've been on the Zoom all day. So please, I will relax.
I thought when you said attorney, we finally got in trouble for some Bigfoot reference somewhere or something.
Not yet.
So we, in June, we stepped into a little bit of a hole, making one of those mistakes. And so what happened was, when it got busy, the board wasn't as full as I thought it could be, and I saw the revenue kind of lagging. What I didn't realize was it was my guys going out finding so many compressors and coils. And I tell you, we're seeing a huge spike in 4 to 5 year old equipment with coils and compressors going out. And so the end of the month was amazing because now we go to fix all those things, and so that revenue started coming in. But we started pumping up the amount of service calls that our guys took, and it was a mistake. And we knew we shouldn't, but we did, and we learned from it. But we were running them, 6 calls a day, and it was too much. And so the callback started climbing, and the average ticket started weaning and so forth. So we're dialing back, but we had a conversation with them, and they understand that less work means paying attention when you're doing the repair, not just looking for one thing, but actually making sure the customer system is brand new when they leave. And so we're going it from that point. But it was interesting how quickly pumping those service calls up led to the weaning. So the department hit their budget for the month. Everything is fine. But July 1st, it looked like Jamestown the day after. There was technician carcasses laying everywhere. We had to pull them back up, polish them off, put them back in the van, and tell them how good they are. But it was rough. And so we're actually scaling back a little bit in July. And I bet you we will do the same amount of revenue. So it's just
I understand. I mean, I think our June, we're probably a little bit different, than you guys in that, we've got some low hanging fruit, customers in our database and stuff like that. And so, we've been growing the service department, especially with Will's help. We've partnered with those guys and they've done a great job for us. But, we're probably not doing the volume that you guys are doing, or that most, service companies are doing.
Right.
But for us, it's decent volume just because so heavy on the new construction side.
Yeah.
Incremental growth,
Now, and I think what, and you can speak more to this, but I think if I'm hearing 8,000 homes, I'm thinking your processes are pretty good and nailed down, aren't they?
Listen, my team, they always make fun of me because I'm like, we're an HVAC, company, but we're really a manufacturing plant. And that's how I try and tell my team to operate. We're an assembly line. You're going to come to work. There's nothing sexy about what you're going to do every single day, but you're going to do it. Right. And if you think about an assembly line, when you go into a factory, it's like everybody's just doing the same thing. Right.
Yep.
At the end of the result, you've got this brand new car, or you've got this, oven, or you've got this whatever it is that they make. And so we operate the same way. You know, processes are in place, and if you go all the way down that assembly line and somebody messes up the load calc, or somebody messes up in the warehouse by not pulling the right job, or you know, we go and rough the house the wrong way or trim the house the wrong way or whatever it may be, you know, we're going to have an issue, right? And so, yeah, processes are big with our company.
Yeah, we became an EOS company about a year ago, and EOS, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the Entrepreneur's Operating System, right? So for us, we actually found out that we needed to take some really good from it, but we can't implement all of it because it's really for a big, Fortune 500 type company or a company that does not heating and air. And so, so we took a lot of the really good from it, but processes and SOPs is something we really have grasped from that. And so we're really trying to get to a place where processes. Now the new construction we do is really big mansions, like one-offs, right? So we don't do a lot of the same process over and over. So for us, it's a little different, but I'm trying to get to a point where at least the service call looks the same. No matter what the problem is, we greet it the same, the upfront contract's the same, we're speaking to the customer in the same type of manner, you know, so those are the things we're focusing on. But 8,000 homes, I guarantee you got that stuff down.
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, it has not been perfect from day one. You know, we've had to, like I said earlier, you know, learn from trial and error and stuff like that. But it's and listen, we're not perfect by any means today, but it runs itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great management team as well behind me.
Yeah, it's that's a big part of it, right? It's the guys making the things happen. So, talk to me a little bit about where do you find people? Right, that's the biggest problem, right? Where do we find?
Are we going into culture after this?
Yes, we're going into culture.
Yeah.
Where do we find people?
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a challenge that we all face, you know, every single day. And it's not just people, it's people that, you know, want to show up to work, you know, every single day, and people that, you know, are willing to learn and train, and it's tough. It's tough. It's, you know, we've been fortunate that, you know, we've probably are, you know, on the new construction side paying, you know, above market average, you know, and so guys sometimes walk in the door and, you know, so we get lucky, you know, from that standpoint. Service technicians, we've really done something different, you know, and we have gone to paying our service technicians salary instead of an hourly rate. And we've been very successful in recruiting some really good veterans by doing that. And when I say that, you know, so what we're doing is, you know, legally, you know, we have to pay them overtime, right? And so what we do is, you know, we pay them, you know, we come up with a salary amount of 40 hours, and then we actually add 10 hours of that, of time and a half, to overtime. And then we say, hey, look, you're not going to work a minute over 50 hours, right? And that time and a half is included in there, you know? So, but what it does is it says, hey, you can go have a work-life balance, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was never a phrase 20 years ago for me, you know, growing up in the industry, but it is today. And work-life balance allows them to go spend time with family. It allows them to go out to dinner and not have to worry about a phone call coming in that they have to go run. And so we have set hours, set days, set hours for all of our service technicians, and they love it. They love it.
No, that's very important.
Swing shifts or anything? Can I ask that?
What's that, Will?
Do you do any like swing shift type of stuff?
No, it's pretty much set days. You know, I mean, we talk to the service technicians. It all varies. You know, hey, you know, if there's some single guys out there that, you know, say, hey, I don't mind working, you know, Saturday, Sunday, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And then they're off Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
So.
You know, Matt, work-life balance when I was in the truck meant that my wife could balance the checkbook at the end of the month. It's like she didn't care how many balances there was, as far as, you know, and I'm facetious. She absolutely cared. But, you know, we made a decision when I started running service that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And I picked up every scrap of overtime I could. I ran, you know, anytime I could, I was out working. And so it was interesting to me, you know, listening to some of my texts this past month, like, man, you know, we're working too hard. I'm like, dude, you did 10 hours. Like that. I ate lunch at 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But again, we came up in a different time, and I actually think it's better now because, you know, you want them to put family first, because we want them to put family first, right? And so that's how they're going to be long-term employees and be happy. And so there is that. But we do try to get the message across that there's 3 months out of the year where it's going to be tough. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we just need to do what we can do. What we started doing is we really try to get kids out of community college, and we grab them right away. And so a large part of our company is all guys that's never really worked for another heating and air company. And so it works really well. And I'm trying to get that going now with the plumbers, but I had to hire, we just opened a plumbing department. So I had to hire an experienced plumber that will eventually become our manager. And he owned his own company, so he's got the management jobs. I didn't just go hire, because that's what we do. We take the best guy, make him a manager, and that's the dumbest thing ever. Actually, went and hired a manager that can do some plumbing. And then we found, I think we're going to make him an offer tomorrow, but I found another plumber that's been doing it for about 30 years, 2 older guys. And it's okay, because now I can go find the guys that's been doing it for a year or two and bring them in with Grandpa 1 and Grandpa 2, and they'll teach them how to properly plumb, right? And those guys are going to stay. And so it's a slower way to start, but I think it's a better way to start.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, every company has a way that they do things, and there are certainly right ways to do things and wrong ways to do things. But bringing in some veterans to educate and train the younger generation is the right way to go. Because everybody that today is just like, it's a fire drill, right? I mean, you just hire as many people as you can. You throw them out there without any training, and even on the new construction side, and we're guilty of that. It's just like, you see that end result, right? So it's like, you go back to that assembly line. Well, if we didn't do the training, well, then what do we expect at the end of the line? Right. So
and this was the first summer, and they've done it before, but in the amount we did it this summer, where we took some of our maintenance guys, wore them and said, all right, guys, you've been doing maintenance for a year now. It's time for big boy pants, right? And yes, there's callbacks and there's things, but we found out we limit their calls just a little bit less than the other guys, and then we help coach them through that. And the biggest thing I found is to keep them positive and in a learning, not to get down on, listen, you forgot to clean a drain line here. Let me explain why this is an issue, right? And so instead of going, you a-hole, you didn't clean a drain line, because that happened before. And so I think this is a good way to do it. Switching gears just a little bit, how has your year been? How's 2025? I'm hearing different contractors saying different things.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. So top line's up 40%.
Nice.
We have been fortunate, on the new construction side. I would say on the AOR side, we're up probably about 10%, service and AOR side. And I've got, the 2 other service companies as well, Lee and Durham, and then Griffin and Statesville. And those companies are, 8 to 10%, up. Yeah. So nothing crazy, but the new construction is humming right now.
Yeah, we were kind of plateauing for about 2 years, kind of building up. It's kind of like a rubber band. You have to build the foundation around it. And so we just looked today. We are up this year for the first 6 months. We're about 19%. And so we'll see if the momentum carries to the end of the year. But everything in the current climate is very positive. But that's not what I'm hearing from a lot of guys. So I'm going back to this Ziegler thing of like, okay, if you want to think you're in depression, go ahead and do that. Like we're not going to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people, I think we're fortunate in that we're in a good pocket market, right? Geographically. So you go flip on CNN or Fox or any national news program, and they're going to tell you that we're, just everybody's sucking wind. And I think you got to peel the onion back a little bit and say, well, where are you?
Yes.
Who's sucking wind? Like,
That's right.
We're not sucking wind in the Carolinas.
No.
Well, everybody's moving to Charlotte.
Yeah.
It's a great area. Columbia, South Carolina. I mean, it's a great area. The coast.
Yeah. So it's 68 families from up north a month moving to Raleigh at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and that's good, Matt. They need houses.
They need houses. Yeah. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
So no, I think our outlook for this year is very positive as well. I think, and we have, where I've seen a little bit of a downturn, and I think it's something internally for us, is we have a commercial kitchen division. That seems to be a little bit harder at the moment to get things going. Now, it could be that we're just in a college town and it's summertime and everybody done left, right?
Yeah.
So there could be that. And I don't have a lot of experience in the refrigeration side, so I'm trying to listen to the people around me that's been there a minute to say, are we in trouble or are we not? But that is a very unique part of this industry. The way you charge is different. The way you deal with these things are completely different. And if you think you can stock a truck with parts, go talk to any hot side guy. every oven is different, and everything has been monkeyed on 5 times. So, it's just how you can make it work. So, yeah, it's different. It's a whole different.
And they don't want to wait, right? I mean, when those freezers go down, wherever it is, I mean, you better be there.
Yes.
So,
yep. And so, yeah, that's an interesting part of it. But our new construction has actually been a little slow because the big houses, and I think it has to do with 2 months of rain. I mean, literally, we saw rain in May, and we saw rain in April, and so those big custom homes are slower to come out of the ground, I think. And so we saw a little bit of a downturn. But what we did was, and this is all Brian Bohr, the owner, and then Cody and Jason, the 2 managers, but they took the new construction crews because those guys, we do very detailed work, so they switched them to the change-out side. So it doubled our capacity for June, and that's why we were able to hit some records, because now everybody had work. And so I heard the conversation today that Cody and Jason was talking. Cody was trying to keep him for a couple more weeks, and Jason's like, no, man, I got work to do. So they're trying to figure that piece out. But yeah, it was very smart of us to do that. Now you got to go hide some things on a P&L and move some people around so the one department doesn't look worse than the other. But that was very fortunate. I think that's a model we're going to follow in the future, in the summers.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they know if it's detailed work, working on high-end custom homes and stuff like that, where attention to detail is important, and it should be important even on a production home as well, but it's a little bit more important on a custom home.
It is. Well, it's because it's unique buildings normally, right? And there's like things involved that isn't in a normal home. So, you're trying to cool 20 foot worth of glass, 15 feet across, it's a little different. So there is different things like that. What do you, the biggest challenges towards the end of the year? What do you see?
Well, material, I mean, we've had some challenges, with material, and I think that may just relate to, tariffs, and you combo that with kind of our scale, up 40%. So we didn't really see that 40% coming. And so the forecast that we provided to the vendors, was not that number. So they weren't, ready for it either.
Right.
So I think, just reeling that back in, and then making sure that our labor is, and ready for, to continue on if we, hit that 40% growth. So we're struggling right now a little bit in the field with labor.
Yeah.
But those are probably the 2 biggest challenges that we've had so far right now.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the same thing. Materials for us, obviously, we're not at your scale, so it's not quite as bad. What I'm currently trying to get my hands around in it, and we just created a position of a purchasing manager, for a company our size, because even though I love my vendors, and there's a couple of them I love a little bit more than others, you got to watch them, because they'll tell you about the equipment price increase in a heartbeat, but they will not tell you that your flex has gone up 10% over the last, whatever, and it can add up pretty quickly. So that's where we are seeing some struggles. Labor, keeping the labor in line is always a struggle. But for us, I think it's capacity, finding more people, and so I can put 2 more service technicians to work right now and at least 2 more crews. So it's for us just to understand, we also don't want to grow that fast, right? So throttle it, make it work, and make sure everybody's happy, I think is what we're seeing. What do you think about, sorry, go ahead.
Growing, I think a lot of people, regardless of what industry you're in as a business owner, you want to scale, right?
Yes.
You're always trying to grow from where you were the previous year. But I mean, there's a right way to grow and there's a wrong way to grow. And sometimes growing too fast can make you go backwards pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it's having processes in place and training is critical,
What are you guys hearing about the big, beautiful new bill? What issues are you hearing? I hear that there's some things coming for our heating and air that's going to be a little scary. And I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm trying to research it. It's a very big bill, so I can't read it all. I don't have time. But I heard that the tax credits are in jeopardy. They're going to take a lot of those away.
I hear a lot of ads saying keep those in the legislation.
Yeah, I haven't, to be honest, haven't dove into it. That would be a shame. I think if the tax credits do go away, I mean, a lot of people probably lean on that.
Yeah.
And it's, significant, number, right, to help us contractors, get the sale.
Right.
But I haven't heard nor read it myself.
The only thing I read was a blurb on ACA, and they said that geothermal and solar is in trouble. because those tax credits are going to go away. Now,
they just got geothermal back.
Yeah, but
a couple years ago.
I think they're going to cut it because, and honestly, well, what we're seeing, so we do a lot of geothermal. And we do a lot of change outs now because of the amount of new construction geothermal they did years ago. Okay. What we're seeing is you can get those same efficiencies out of a regular variable speed system now, or, a higher SEER system. And so there's no need to go dig up a yard. There's none of the stuff. And so I think geothermal has its place, maybe more commercially eventually, but I think residentially it's on the way out and anyway. And so if they're going to take the tax credits away from that, it's going to be the nail in the coffin, in my opinion, because nobody's going to spend that kind of money and then not get a tax return on it. Yeah. But
what's the geo system cost these days? Like this for the consumers out there listening. I've replaced 2 systems in 3 years. And
you talking about a change out or new?
Change out.
Change out's not too bad. It's a little bit more than a conventional system. Installing them new, you're talking 40 to 50,000 per system. Yeah, and so because you got to get the rigs out there, you got to do all the stuff and drill down and lay pipe and all those things. Change outs, those units are not cheap. But you can do a change out in those for 10 to 12 to 15,000. So they're in the line where our systems are now on average. But I just don't see a future because if there's no tax credit, because North Carolina had 65% tax credit. It was 65% because it was 30 from the government and 35 from the state. Well, if all that goes away, you're not going to spend that money. But Brian Bohr made an interesting comment to me today. He said, a lot of people that put in geothermal new construction, they don't care about that tax credit really because they can afford that piece of it, right? So I don't know. I just, if it is in the bill, I don't know. I need to go do some research, but I know that could hurt us. But I also heard on the other end, they're looking at rolling back some regulations, which will help, I think.
Hearing that as well, some of the stuff in the states.
What kind of when you're going and, if you've got a current customer that's got a geothermal system today, right, and you want to change it to a more conventional system. I mean, what's involved in that?
Capping off.
Yeah.
The ductwork's the same, right? So it's really just that water pipe piece of it, and so a lot of times we'll cap the pipes off, and I don't speak from authority or experience here because I've not been out with a crews on doing it, but I do know that they'll cap off those tubes. Now, if it's an open loop system, they'll pull the pipe, and just be done with it, pull the pump out of the well. But most of the time, if there's a loop field in place, my guys will talk about going back with a geothermal system because they are great. They last a very long time. They last about twice as long as regular system does. So the longevity is there, right? But the repairs on them are not cheap. We just had a coil failure on a customer. The Geo's about 12 years old. We had a coil and a coil pan failure, and I think the replacement coil and the pan was something in the neighborhood of about $6,000 before I put refrigerant and stuff on top of it. So, that's the part. The replacement parts are becoming very expensive.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, can I throw a squirrel out there?
Throw it. Let me hear it.
What is Marcus Hopkins up to?
Good old Hopkins. So he actually bought a company.
Lisa keeps up with his wife Alicia. My wife Lisa and Alicia know each other, and they actually it's been a few months they were talking. But I heard he bought a company. So go ahead.
He did. Yeah. So Marcus he came up with me when I bought the company. He and I were fraternity brothers at Florida State.
Okay.
Good friends. And he came up with me when I bought Carl and worked for me for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I think he worked for was it York? Did he work for
JCI?
Yeah,
he was our JCI rep.
Yeah. And then worked for Carrier for a little bit. Carrier corporate. And then moved back down to Florida and bought a company in Sarasota.
So, a heating and air company?
Heating and air company, yeah.
That's
actually
awesome.
The company he bought in Sarasota, they were good friends. It was 2 brothers that were good friends with my dad. So Florida, it was kind of cool connection there. But yeah, he's doing well. He's doing good.
Tell him I said hello. We
used to
take a good bit of golf together. And actually, when I first got started in this business, I guess 11 years ago, I didn't even have a car, Matt. We had one car, and Lisa was gone, of course, at the office at her practice. So Marcus would come pick me up to go play golf.
Yeah.
So that's how bad it was.
I actually have a very funny Marcus Hopkins story. and I'm not.
He was a good dude. I used to like hanging
listen.
out.
I've got a ton of Marcus Hopkins stories.
Let's keep it rolling.
We cannot air them. So.
Well, this one I think we can, and it doesn't. It just shows. So he becomes our representative from the factory, and we go on factory trips. And we'll tell you, I never missed a factory trip. It was a good time.
Right.
But that's how I went. I actually really enjoyed going and touring and seeing the new updates and whatever. But I had a bunch of customers go, and this was the very first one that Marcus was our rep. I don't know. Were you on this trip, Will?
Probably.
So
maybe, I don't know.
So the way it works is we would fly into Wichita, Kansas, and then we would tour that plant, and then when we were done, we would fly in the evening, stay in a hotel, go to the factory that day, and then like about 2:00 they would put us on a tour bus, and then that tour bus would run from Wichita, Kansas to Norman, Oklahoma. Was it 5 or 6 hours, Will, something like that?
I don't think it was that much. I don't think it was that long.
About 4 hours, maybe. It was a trip.
I'm gonna look it up. I don't think it's that long.
Oh, anyway, it was a trip long enough that all previous factory guys would have the bus kind of stocked with some cold snacks, something to wet the back neck with, and some snacks. Right. So I go to the bus for some of the reasons. I said, "Hey, Marcus, I think you forgot to, get the stuff. I'm just giving you a heads up." He's like, "I know you territory managers. You guys just want to have a good time." I'm like, "Marcus, I'm not kidding you, dude. Like, this is a thing. Like, seriously, like, let me help you. Like, we'll get an Uber real quick. We'll go get some, because if you get a couple cases of beer, it's fine. You can cap it, right?"
Right.
And he's like, "Nah, dude, I know you guys. You're just out here to have a good time." I was like, "Marcus, I promise you, man, this is a thing." Right. So I leave him alone. So I guess some other way, somebody informed him from the factory that, no, this is what you do. But at that point, we're on the bus ready to go. So he has the bus pull into like one of these bus truck stops.
Right.
And he just stands at the counter with a credit card and open season, where we would have just had a couple cases of beer. Guys are coming up with fists of Jack. Like, it's like completely out of control. I'm like, "Marcus, dude, he's like, "Can't put the genie back in the bottle, buddy. Here we go." That was a rough trip because, some of these contractors, man, not everybody, but some of these guys, you can't take them out of the city they're born in. Oh. And so these guys were walking to the bus with armfuls of liquor and stuff. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so bad."
Yeah. Under 3 hours. I just checked.
Under 3 hours. But
I didn't think it was that long.
But then the next trip around, Marcus had the bus stopped, a couple cases of beer and some snacks. That didn't happen again. But yeah, I was like, dude, I wonder what that bill was, because it was not cheap.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, that was the same trip. Actually, after that bus ride, everybody went to dinner that night, and the one contractor threw the other one through the plate glass window.
Oh my gosh!
Now, I don't think I was there because Marcus got there late. I had just about left or was leaving.
Okay.
Virginia. So I don't remember any plate glass windows.
Oh yeah, there was a whole.
I remember the hailstorm in the bus, and we all thought we were going to die.
That was fun.
One I remember.
With a Newt Gingrich bus, like trying to kiss our bus going because it was presidential season or whatever, and they were coming, and the guy was like, so our bus driver decided the best way to get through softball sized hail was to push the gas pedal as hard as he could. Remember that? And like the hatch was flying open, and Eric Hackster was hanging on the hatch to pull the hatch down. I mean, that was some fun trips, man. That was some fun stuff.
Factory trips are always a good time.
Oh yeah. Tell him seriously. You see him. Tell him hello.
I will. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Matt, we have to go here. I'm sorry, buddy, but we do.
We're not there yet, are we?
We're close. We have to go here with every one of our guests, and we have to understand what your beliefs are around the big furry man, Bigfoot.
About a Bigfoot. Well, listen, I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but I think there is a Bigfoot.
I thank you, sir.
There's gotta be.
I think there is a Bigfoot. Yeah,
something out there.
TikTok shows me every day he's there, and apparently he speaks English perfectly.
Yeah, he's out of control right now.
Yeah. He's doing a lot of crazy stuff on TikTok. I know that.
Yeah.
No, it's just kind of our running.
I'm a believer.
Well, I had a speaking of college buddies, I was down at the beach, and So we did the podcast from the coast, and I was at my buddy's place, and he's in international currency exchange, but he's a big Bigfoot, UFO guy.
Right.
So we just said we'll mingle it, mix it in there, and it ended up we got the most views, and it blew up.
Although the one clip that went really viral is when I asked what the federal government's kind of sanity is about this new refrigerant 454 that is kind of like Bigfoot, and that thing got over like 8,000 views.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So speaking of that, how is the refrigerant thing going right now? Is that
tough.
eased up?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we kind of were proactive, a few months ago and got some POs in the system, but we're not getting everything that we asked for. So, and the price is just, it's.
Well, is it becoming a problem to where you can't finish a home because you don't have enough?
No, we're not there. We're not there yet, Will.
Good.
We have it and everything. I mean, I don't know. You take 8,000 divided by 52 weeks. That's how many startups we're doing. 200 startups a week. But we would like to have more than what we have on hand right now. And, with the, vendors and, kind of the leverage that we have and stuff. I mean, we're not getting it. So I know that there's other people out there struggling, as well. I had a guy call me from Nashville, Tennessee, does new construction homes in Tennessee. This is 6 weeks ago, and said, hey, I understand you work for, it was LGI Homes. I understand you guys work for LGI Homes, and he works for LGI in Nashville. And so the LGI connection. So he called me and said, hey, have you got any jugs that you can sell me, or have you got any connections? And he said, I got 50 houses right now that I cannot start up because I can't find a single jug in Nashville. Wow. So I was like, I wish I could, but I can't help you out. So it's, it's going to be a problem for probably a couple more months is what I understand.
Yeah. We've heard that from the factory. We had a JCI engineer that we're still keep up with, and he told us, there's plenty at the factory. It's just the containers, the cylinders. And he said, should ease up. Did he, JG? July, August?
Well, so right now it's DOT, right? If DOT, there's some jugs that we can use, but they are dependent on DOT approval. And so if DOT will approve those, I think it'll be better. The concern we've been putting in a ton of R32 units, and we do 454 too, but majority has been R32. And so, to make 454, you need R32. Right. And so our concern is that when the jugs do show up, are we then going to jump into the other side of this cascade because now they're taking the 32 to make, And so I was told by a good source that said, no, there's plenty of it available. The gas is not the problem. The containers are the problem. So I don't know.
I've heard the same. It's just, it's the gas is not the issue. It's just the containers. Now,
I will tell you something happened the other day that I never thought I would hear out of our dispatch department, but our lead dispatcher actually came in and said, okay, I have a customer on the phone. She purchased a system from a company that cannot start it up because they don't have the refrigerant. If we have it, they'll pay us to come start the system up. And unfortunately, I said no. That's not. That $500 is not going to help me later when I don't have refrigerant to start my own up. But we're starting. We've had a couple of those. We had a call where a 454 coil was leaking already, and they went to change it out, and nobody has refrigerant to change it out.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you guys. And we were just on with one of our customers out in California last week. And, on the change out side, are customers really understanding the new refrigerant change? Do they care about R410A versus R454B? They were saying, and they had their service manager popped in, they were in their conference room, and he's like, hey, Sean's like, hey, come here. I want to ask you a question. And he said, consumers are like, no, we want the new refrigerant.
Yeah.
They were pushing back on R410A.
Yep. That's what we're
same here.
Yep.
Yeah. We've experienced the same, Lee over in Durham and Griffin and Statesville have experienced the same thing. And I only know that because I'm sitting on a bunch of 410A equipment right now.
Yep.
That we're trying to move, and we're having some struggles moving it.
Which this is my public service announcement. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, the 410A system is fine. It's good.
Right.
There's tons of 410A out there.
Yeah.
And if I were to
Right.
make a decision right now to do something in my house, I would beat a contractor up on a 410A system because he has them and he wants to get rid of them. I'm telling you,
100%.
there's
Okay,
nothing wrong with it.
did you, general
Yeah.
public, did you hear that? Now is the
Yeah.
time,
Yep.
if you
Yeah.
want, or especially as we move into the fall,
Yep.
that is the time when it might be the best time to purchase. And 410A, you might even get a better deal.
Yeah.
you know?
And actually, the reason I'm going to be very, I can already hear the TikTok comments coming. The 454 systems have new sensors on them and the coils and everything else, and some of those are not of the best quality of what we're finding out.
Really?
So 410A doesn't have those things. It's a tried and true system. Now, I get the ozone depletion. I get all that stuff, but we're not venting the stuff. It's not like we're just shooting it up in the atmosphere. It's good equipment. I'm telling you, there's a lot of it out there, and I would, that's what I would do right now.
Well, can we dial this thing way back for a minute? From my understanding, and this is just from back, talking and working with engineers, that the whole idea was to come up with 410A because of the venting of R22 in the atmosphere. It was depleting the ozone. So then I hear years later, after we've made the switch and the move, that they come to find out that the production process of R410A creates so much heat that it actually had more ozone depleting issues.
So
than R22 being vented to guys just releasing gas when they're doing a change out or whatever. So this is what I heard. And you tell me if I'm way off base with that. I dreamed that up, or you tell me.
I heard the same, but what I also heard was that they, from the beginning, knew 410A is bad, but not as bad as R22, and they went to 410A because it was more readily available until they could figure out what refrigerant they really wanted to go to. Yeah. And then I'm finding out that we're moving to 454 now, and then we're going to switch refrigerants again. Did anybody hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I've been, remember,
30, I think what 32 is gonna probably phase out sooner than the 454B.
Yep.
I think it's already mapped out, right, for the replacement.
And honestly, I think what
20 was it 20 years ago?
Yeah.
22 years ago.
And so what I'm hearing, and this could be completely wrong, so please don't quote me, and I'm upfront and honest about this, but the hearsay that I'm hearing is what's part of this big, beautiful bill is some regulation rollback on that, is to say, no, we're not going to keep switching these damn refrigerants. We need to take a better look at it and come up with a better plan, which is good because, I honestly think it's a little bit of a money-making scheme for the manufacturers, right? It's easy to keep switching refrigerant because, Matt, has any territory manager come to you in the last 10 years and go, listen, here's a 10% reduction in your equipment price?
Never.
Not unless you negotiate it, right? Like not unless you bring him, tie him to a fence post and say, all right, here's where we're going with this, right? So that doesn't happen. And my opinion is like these and this is very conspiracy theory, but it's like these refrigerant changes just keep pumping the market up, man. And we're getting to a point where your average homeowner is not going to be able to change the refrigerant system out. We're getting there.
Listen, all and I'm not saying this in a negative way. It's just my opinion, right?
Yep.
And all these manufacturers that answer to Wall Street, they have to produce EBITDA numbers, right? They have to produce numbers, and so it's very tough for them to walk into a contractor's office without any kind of reason, and raise a price, right? So when there's a reason, it's like we just, although we may fight it, we kind of understand it, but it is a margin grab. It is a margin grab because at the end of the day, like we don't know as contractors how much more that assembly line costs for them to produce a 410A system versus a 454B.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think it costs the delta difference that I'm paying.
No.
So
no.
There's some margin out there that these guys are gaining.
And it really kind of helps if you've been on the distributor side.
Yeah.
For as long as I have to sit down in these conversations when new manufacturers come in and they want your business, you're like, no. Okay. How much are you holding back, right? Where are you hiding the weeniest? What we normally say, right? So what product is the margin hidden in? But it's just my theory, and I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but I agree with you, man. And I'm also not as a big subscriber to this global warming thing as I think a lot of people around me want me to be.
Right.
I see trends, and I think we're cyclical.
It's changes. Like we said, the guys on the West Coast, we've been watching it, and they have too. It's cooler.
It is
out
cooler.
there. California has been. They tell us, to move the needle in California, it's really got to be above 110 to do it. And we've been watching it, and they've been mild this year. Or
in the beginning of June, I considered changing my entire fleet over to diesel. See if I can get summer to come on quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get back to the price increases and like consumers not being able to afford it. I had one of my college buddy, the Bigfoot guy. He calls me the other day, his house here in Waxhaw. He's like, "Hey, I got a quote and $17,500 for the system." And he's like, "Is that good?" And I said, "Well, he told me what it was." I said, "Yeah," and it's like $1,500 cheaper for a standard single speed compressor. And I said, not bad.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I don't know what he did. I haven't talked to him. He's down at the coast for the summer, but I don't think the average consumer realizes that you're looking at 10 plus for anything these days for a full system.
The thing that irritates me is, so all the experts, all the sales trainers come out and go, well, just sell on monthly payments. But here's the thing, guys. When it's becoming to a point where that's as expensive as a car, and now a family has a house payment, a car payment, and an HVAC payment, that's not good. That's not a good way. And people don't have between $14,000 and $20,000 laying around to change out a heating and air system. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
You remember the old rule of thumb in the business. This is we're going way back. The Wayback Machine is the average HVAC system replacement costs like $5,500, or it's $55 or $45, because that was the average liquidity of an American. That's what they had in savings, and so that's kind of where it fell. So most people, you hate to say it.
I can remember doing new construction homes 20 years ago for $3,400.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
$1,500 a ton. I remember it vividly.
Oh, I remember it was like $1,200 a ton. No, keep going back, maybe.
Yeah.
No, and it's actually, and I hear the scuttlebutt. Like I am between my friends, like, oh, you heating and air guys, you're raking it in. You don't understand what we pay for this stuff and labor, and what I have to pay a technician to stay with me.
Yeah. And then the liability, and then the issues going back. Oh, like you said, the drain pan wasn't quite sloped the right way, and you're buying a ceiling.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't understand is like, you may start out with a 40 or 45% margin on a change out job, but you step through a ceiling, or it goes a little bit extra, it goes into overtime, or you got to go back for a warranty call, or whatever it may be, before you can turn around that 45 is 35.
Yeah.
Or gone.
Well, and listen, I'll pull the curtain back this far for anybody that's listening that doesn't understand. At the end of the day, a decent heating and air company hopes to clear 10% net of what they did. A really good company shoots for 15, but you clear 10, you did okay. And 10% of whatever the company size, that's not a lot of money to put in the bank to start over in January and February when it's slow, and you have to carry wages so that you guys don't leave you because I don't have work. I mean, there's a lot goes into this. It's not, yes, you can make a comfortable living if you're smart and you do this thing right. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying we're not raking in cash like, brain surgeons. It's not what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I got a question back on the the new construction stuff. I mean, as interest rates have been, considerably higher, and again, I know we're in a great market. So are you seeing, is that affecting anything, or are we still just we're in this bubble down here?
I think it's, it's been a little misleading on the new construction side. These builders have been buying down rates, to move houses.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, they've been buying down rates, and the problem is so your average home price was X, 5-6 years ago, and then today it's X, and so a first-time home buyer can't go and get qualified at 6.5% or 7%, and so the first-time home buyer, or even a buy up guy, it's like they got to have that interest rate at 4.5 or 5 to get qualified,
Yeah.
And so what we're experiencing is we're starting to see some of the national builders ask for concessions because it's just not sustainable for them to continue to buy down rates,
Yeah.
But the margins are thin, so we can't offer concessions without the manufacturers, help.
And isn't it funny though? So the homeowner can't get the loan. So the builder goes and beats up the bank, and then he goes and beats up the trades, and then the trades turn around and beat up the supplier, and then the supplier goes and beats up the factory. And at the end of the day, if the factory just pressed it right from the begin with, none of this would have happened. We would have been okay.
Correct.
It's insane.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. It starts at the manufacturer, and it goes back to the margin grab, right? It's like, every time they something new comes out, it's like, all right, well, we're fixing to raise our price by 10-15%, and then by the time it gets to me, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So.
Matt, do you think a lot of these manufacturers are going to bring the factories back from Mexico?
No,
you don't think so?
I don't see that happening from a labor standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they are, with the mass production that they have going on down there and the labor rate that they're probably paying those guys, the benefits that they may or may not offer, that they may have to offer over here.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
It was interesting. Well, for a long time when we were selling York, it was all American built, right? Now the parts may come from different places, but it was all Wichita and Norman. But then even JCI outsourced coils to Mexico, coils and air handlers, right? And so it's just interesting to me with this tariff talk going on and these things. I was wondering what you guys' idea was, and I agree with you. I think it's going to stay there, unless something stupid or not stupid, unless the current administration makes it much more lucrative to bring the business back. I think.
Yeah,
but it's going to have to be.
To make it more lucrative, then what happens, right? It's just price increase, and price increase, and price increase.
We pay more.
Yeah, we're going to pay more, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's, again, you just don't pick up and move a plant overnight. That's years. So I don't know. Well, where do you see the market like here in this area in the next 5 years? Continue to be strong. I still think like you said, we're kind of in a great location. People are moving here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got people moving from the West Coast here. We got people moving from the North here. We got people moving from the South here. There's a lot of opportunity, in the Carolinas and Tennessee and Virginia. Like, people want to live in these states, and they got to build homes. I still think we're underbuilt. I don't think we've completely recovered from 2007, 2008. So we just got to get it. We got to get to a point where we're a little bit more affordable. Especially for the first-time home buyer.
Prices
I can remember. Will, I can remember, like, in 2007, 2008, you could buy a brand new home for $90,000.
Yeah. I'm selling a nice home for like 120, 30, 40.
Yeah. The cheapest home,
now it's like 350
home out there now with a production builder is probably 320, 350, somewhere in there.
I went to a couple of the homes. We shot some stuff for you guys out towards Monroe, and they were beautiful homes. But I was like, what are these going for? I'm like, what?
Yeah, $500,000 probably. Like, it's crazy.
I was like, I just can't imagine. How do you afford that?
Well, but don't you think though that a lot of people that are buying these homes are the people that's moving from up north? Because you can sell a row house shack in New York City for $2 million and come down here and buy you a mansion for $500,000.
No, that's a great point. And,
it is.
And not only are they, able to afford them, they don't even have a mortgage, right? They're just paying cash.
Yep.
Right.
I have a bunch of friends that, buddies that they're all from Jersey, Ohio, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And again, they come down here and they go, holy crap, I can get, this is twice the size of what I had, 3 times the size, half the price.
The other place I'm hearing this is I won't say a problem, but where this is happening like crazy is DFW, Dallas Fort Worth. People are moving there from California, from New York. And I talked to a couple of Uber guys because a previous job I had, the headquarters was there. So I had to fly there quite often. And he was like, man, he said, this place has changed so much because it's all, people from up north, and they sell the small little house up in New York, and they come here and buy ranches and farms and big deals, big houses. So that's where it's going, in my opinion. And it raises the market, right? Because if I can get this much more for this house because some guy from New York will buy it, I'm going to raise my prices. So the first-time homeowner, to your point, is really the one holding the short end of the stick. So then what's the timeline? So now I, as a new first-time home buyer, have to go buy something I can fix up.
Yeah.
And then step my way into, that's what we did, step your way into the home you really want.
Right.
Well, it's a problem. And I think, the message is being told that, you may never be able to buy a home, the American dream. And
land is out of control, right? I mean, a lot of these builders, again, this is just a theory, but I think a lot of these builders are asking for concessions, from the trades when really their direct costs are probably in line. It's just they're upside down on the land costs.
Yeah. I agree I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. Well, anything else? We want to throw any more squirrels out before we're done here? We're coming up on an hour, so we try to keep it under an hour.
No, but I'm super stoked, Will, that you brought Matt on, man. And Matt, it was a real privilege to talk to you. I love talking to other contractors because, the Bohr Brothers philosophy is, and we actually even help guys close to us, but we don't see competitors. The only competitor I really have is the one guy in a truck, because he's driving everything down, right? So, but everybody else, we would gladly help and talk and share good ideas. And like I said, I'm part of a roundtable every Tuesday where I think we're 8 contractors from all over the country. Barrico's in there with me, Will. So, and so we just sit and talk about ideas and different things. And it's good, man. And so I'm probably going to circle back with you away from the podcast, and I would love to keep some conversation going.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat a little bit about, new construction. You probably don't have many new construction guys on, but it's a passion.
We talk about anything.
Love talking about it.
Yeah.
No, but I do think we want you back in about 6 months or so to see how the year is ending up.
Absolutely.
I would love to see how your year ends, and hopefully you guys are blessed with as much growth as we're seeing coming, and just keeping it up, and may the good Lord send you all the labor you can handle.
There you go.
That's what you need, right?
We'll take it.
Well, thanks, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Will, we will try to do next week.
The girls are going to do it. So we're going to give you a little preview for next week. So 2 of our people, Jen and Aaron, Jennifer Hall and Aaron Watson. So Matt, they're like 18 months into the HVAC world / marketing world. So we thought it'd be nice to kind of get their thought process. I mean, they had no idea they're going to get into this, and they both are great, and we're very fortunate to have them. So we're going to have both of them on. Jen's in Greensboro. She's from Charlotte. She lives in Greensboro, and Aaron's up in Middletown, Maryland.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I think I'm wrong with them. She's in Maryland.
Yeah. But
great girls. I just want to hear their perspective.
It's great. I hear sometimes, comments about, it's a male-dominated industry, but we've got a few women. We've got a few women that, service techs and stuff like that. And I love it. I love hearing about women, in the industry and being successful in our industry. I think it's great.
Women in HVAC are a great organization. Yep. We're members. Lynn and Jen both went to the conference.
Yeah, I've been to the conference. I'm not a woman, but I went because I had software.
Well, they tried to drag me, and I said I had traveled way too much back in the spring.
Yeah.
I was not getting on another plane.
No, it was a great conference. I'll tell you. I felt very uplifted, because the thing about women when they get together in conferences like this is they really talk about uplifting each other, and I felt there was a very positive conference. I had a lot of fun there. It was a good time. Now, I haven't had a reason to go back, but the podcast could always go live from there.
There you go.
We've got a factory invite too in Norman.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it under an hour.
Well, thanks again, Matt. Thanks, Will, and then we will circle back next week.
Yep.
All right. Good. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Thanks.